Hello. Thank you for tuning in to The Boring Show. I am your host, as I was last show, and I will continue to be for every show that we watch, that you watch. For this show today, I would like to actually take a moment and just speak with you one-on-one so that you can get to know who I am. I am Julia, and I would like to talk about, for this show, all of the people that have helped me in my life, as there have been many of them. The first one that I would like to start off with, his name was Antonio. It still is Antonio, and he was my very good friend growing up as a child. Antonio taught me to read books, and he also taught me to appreciate reading those books. In the first book that I read, Antonio, he showed me how to read it. I was about 8 years old at the time, and I still remember holding that book as it was furry and cuddly, but then I realized that that wasn't the book that I was holding, but it was my dog. By accident, I pet the dog instead of holding the book that Antonio was trying to give me, so then I grabbed the book from Antonio, and I remember that there were many pages in the book. This book that I held, and as I started to read through it, I found that it was written in Espanol, which I do not understand that language. So I had to have Antonio translate it, which he did many times over, and I found it to be absolutely riveting. As a child at 8 years old, I knew what that word meant. And actually the book was written about cornfields and wheat fields and the times in which they produced their harvest, which I went on to read after that book many other books. And later on, I will tell you about the professors that influenced my decision in reading, and how maybe I'll talk to you about how those books affected my life. The next person that I would like to speak to you about has profoundly influenced my way of thinking as an individual. And that person was actually my mother. And my mom taught me how to sew. And she showed me how to clean. So when I clean, a lot of times I start in the bathroom, and you have to really wash everything that is anything in the bathroom. I know that my mom, she knows a lot, and so maybe I'll know as much as her. She also showed me when I clean the bathroom, I have to really scrub everything. And there's so many people else that I have to think about. Another person that influenced my life was my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Myers. And the reason why she influenced me was that because in 4th grade, a lot of times we talked about historical figures, which I find wonderful, that people can change history in a moment, and many years later that we still talk about them. And I remember we were talking about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, and we also talked about the Donner Party. And one thing that I really liked was multiplication. From Mrs. Myers, my 4th grade teacher, we did multiplication tests that were timed. 5 times 4 is 20. I still remember that one. I hope that Mrs. Myers one day, she was really old then, so she may not even be around anymore, but maybe one day if I see Mrs. Myers, I'll tell her 5 times 4 equals 20, just like you said. She was funny. Other people that influenced my life is my sister, and she is an age of me plus 4 years. So she was funny. My sister, she is a good person. She was really funny, and she taught me how to climb the tree in our front yard, which I always climbed. Loved to climb that tree. And my sister, she also taught me how to make cookies, chocolate chip cookies, peanut butter cookies, cookies with sprinkles on top that you put in the oven and cook, and then you can eat them later. And my sister also, she showed me some good books to read. We used to walk to the library every afternoon after school. I would go to the library, and I would just read books again with my sister, and she's somebody that influenced my life greatly.